So we're back. We're going to run through all the horses. Went from pouring rain all the way through Ohio and Windsor to the sun here, so that's good. So we have 35 horses that have started in a stake race this year. 35.
Wow.
And what are you laughing at? 35 that have started in a stake race. 7 that will be starting in stake races, I would assume, over the next few weeks, month. And then we have 10 horses that are turned out, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I don't know, 10 or so horses that are turned out. Pretty good record, I think. You know, 35 stake performers out of 50. And we all know of those stake performers what variety they are. There's like, well, I'll just tell you what, number 21, Screaming Hawk. There's a horse that was 4-1 in the gold the other night. So, a lot of nice horses on here. How many stake winners did you say we had?
Those are just winners in general.
Oh. Well, I can tell you quick how many stake winners we've had. 1, 2, 3. Like Sunshine's Finest didn't win, but love of God, he will. But we won't count them. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8, 9, 10. 10. That I can see right now, we've had 10 horses win staking events. 10 separate horses win staking events. Like Yes did. Oh, 11. Thanks, Ollie. 11 horses win staking events so far this year. We have 35 horses that contested in stake races. Now, keep in mind, when we say that, geez, we had 11 that won. Sunshine's Finest didn't win. Time El Tulo didn't win. Time El Houdini didn't win. There's a bunch of them on here. Oh, no, 12. Hard 8. 12 horses. Anyway, we've 35 that contested stake races. 7 that are on their way to the stakes, hopefully. 10 that are turned out. Now, we do have one unfortunate piece of business, and that is Mr. Caper. Mr. Caper, as you know, was one of our nicest colts training down. Very, very nice horse. We had very high hopes for him. And then he ended up, I don't know how to put this. He ended up with a line in his foot. The vet x-rayed him. Dr. Chris Grosenbacher x-rayed him at our barn. Said he's got a line in his foot. Give him 4 weeks in the stall, 4 weeks in the pool. We did. After 5 weeks in the pool, an extra week. After 5 weeks in the pool, he's down in Princeton, which is an hour and a half from our farm. Travis Henry had him. I said, hey, could you have your vet x-ray that foot? And just to make sure that line's gone, and we'll start back with him right away. Vet calls me. Said he can't find a line in the foot, but there's a line. He's got a broken navicular bone. He said broken sesamoid, and I didn't know this, but the navicular is a sesamoid bone. A very significant injury and bone to break. Now, I had talked to the surgeon. We waited and re-x-rayed Mr. Caper. I talked to the surgeon about Mr. Caper. And we had it and planned that we could potentially put a screw in this navicular bone. Now, just to explain how complex this surgery would have been, it's never been done in a standardbred ever. Now, just to put this out there, horses can race. Navicular bones, when they heal, they don't heal with what the veterinarian, the surgeon, called bony bridges of calcium. They heal with scar tissue in between. So you can only imagine the lack of consistency when it comes. I've had horses that broke their naviculars when they were young, but they're not the same horse. They're not, you know, they're just not the horse they were. So this horse could race someday. This horse could be okay, but he might not. And for me, I think we're going to look for a home for Mr. Caper. Obviously, I want somebody that's going to care for him, do a good job with him. I don't know what kind of stress he can take, and I don't know if the horse can ever be trained back and raced. I don't know. That'll be up to the horse, so it'll be up to him. So it's probably one of the saddest things I've gone through in a while is, you know, having to give up on a horse with so much talent and an unexplainable injury that makes no sense to me. You know, to put it in perspective again, Natalie Cote is an extremely intelligent, smart surgeon. Does all our operations when we need them done. And she said in 30 years of being a head surgeon, she's never seen a standardbred horse break a front navicular bone, ever in her life. In fact, she said she can't even find a paper on it. So we have a horse with what started out as a minor line that would heal, somehow morphed into a potentially career-ending fracture. So it's not something I want to be a part of, and not something you want to see happen, but it did, and I am. So I think the best thing to do, I thought long and hard about this. I thought about it for a week. We could do the surgery, we could do a lot of things. The surgery was going to be $5,000, which isn't the end of the world. It was obviously expensive, but $5,000 to put the screw in with a marginally better prognosis. Ultimately, it's going to come down to the horse. I've had horses with broken naviculars, and I have no interest in training this guy down with a broken navicular. So we're going to take our time for another couple of days, work out what we're going to do. Obviously, we want to make sure that this horse gets cared for absolutely perfectly and goes to a home, a loving home. And you know, if they, I suppose, if they want to, you know, wait till next March and begin jogging and training him back, then great. And if they don't, then I want to make sure that he's taken care of. So this is not an easy process. You can only imagine the people out there that a lot of people would think they want a horse, but financially it'll end up being a burden and one that they can't support. There's a lot of people out there that may just sell them, try and make a couple of dollars. So for me, the process of what we do with the horse, we could give the horse to OSAS, but they're stressed to the max too. I'm just going to take my time, look around, and see what we're going to do with Mr. Caper. But unfortunately, and I'm deeply saddened to say it, the chapter of Mr. Caper in our barn has come to an end. So we are going to have to, as I said, I'm going to spend the week looking around quietly, you know, through channels that I know, somewhere for the horse to go where he can live out his career. If he wants in field, or if he's sound next year and they want to try him back, so be it. He wouldn't be the first horse to race with a broken navicular, but he will definitely not be doing it for us. So that is the sad news. Get the bad over with quick, I guess, as they say, and we'll move on to the good. Good news is we have 35 horses on this list right here that have raced in stake races this year. I'm going to go through the top 10 list. The first 10 horses on this list are our top 10 list. I'm going to follow it up with the next 25 that have raced in the stake races, what they're doing, what they're up to, how they are. Then we're going to go through the list of horses that are close to being ready. Then we're going to go through the turnouts, why they're turned out, what our plans are with them while they're turned out, and what I think will happen when they come back. Now, if I'm not mistaken, we have every horse in our stable on here, right? Every baby. I think we have every baby in the stable here, so if we miss something or screw up, I apologize. Definitely take me to task and send me an email, but I think we got them all. So, without further ado, number 1 made it all the way back from 10 to 1, White Tiger. The only reason I'm putting White Tiger in first, Ollie, See You in Tuscany. See You in Tuscany's won 2 stake races. Raced very, very well. Very, very good horse. But for me, See You in Tuscany's only paid in Ohio. So his limitations are very, I shouldn't use the word limitations because I was going to say limited. His opportunities are limited this year. He's only in Ohio.
That's not his fault, though. That's yours.
Oh yeah, Amy's saying it's my fault that he is. So let me be clear. We have 53 horses to stake in January. See You in Tuscany is standing in a stall with a temperature of 104. He hasn't done anything outrageously good in January, this is. It's pretty hard for me to ask our clients to pay extra money, the Ohio breeders, you know, the Breeders' Crown, things of that nature that we paid other horses into. But how can I possibly make that call in January and February? It's impossible. So we paid him into what we thought we paid him. See You in Tuscany is paid into the fairs. He's paid into the Ohio Sire Stakes and the fairs. That's it. Nothing more. And for me, his lack of ability to earn a lot of money this year is the only reason I'm putting White Tiger ahead of him. White Tiger is paid into everything. White Tiger the other day came out and I warmed him up and he was a little ornery, which isn't unlike him. He wore a very tight hobble. I got away 6th. Ollie is telling Amy how to put the plug in for his computer in the back. Rather than directing him, she's just telling him, he's just telling her no. You're not there yet. So anyway, White Tiger, Ollie. So White Tiger got away 6th. Horse made a break in front of him down the backstretch. He came charging on the end of it. Got up to win in 157 flat. Last quarter in 28 flat. Now, I don't know whether it was a little bit of wind or a deep track or what it was, but none of those stake colts over that 48-hour window of Stallion Series, which is the grassroots on Monday, and then the Pennsylvania Sires, the top flight horses, on Tuesday, none of those last quarters were fast. White Tigers was 28 flat. And only to put an exclamation mark on the trip he went. I heard him make a noise going back to the winner's circle, like a lethargic noise, his airway. So I said, you know, to the groom, I said, you know, call Andrew or whatever, but I think you should scope this horse. So I'm walking through the middle of the paddock after. And the vet's there. I see the vet making up a bill, and they're walking. White Tiger Williams said, Doc, how did that horse, White Tiger, scope? And he said, which one's that? I said, the horse for Andrew Harris. He goes, oh, he's full. I said, full? Excuse me? He said, yeah, 7 out of 10, thick yellow mucus. I said, are we talking about the right horse? This horse was winning 57, last half in 56, last quarter 28 flat. He said, well, he pulls out the bill, he goes, White Tiger? He said, he's a very good horse then, because he is full of mucus. So that's what kind of trip, that's what kind of power White Tiger has. You know, I don't know what kind of diminished capacity he would be in, but it would have to be some. This is the type of mucus that has horses looking horrible on the track. And he just won one of the most impressive miles of the day on the track with that mucus. So White Tiger bounces from number 10 to number 1 with an emphatic win in Pennsylvania, an impressive victory. Number 2 is See You in Tuscany. 2 Ohio Sire Stake wins. I'll just tell you how smart and tough this horse was. Just so you know, when you're driving any horses, and especially 2-year-olds, you know, they get a little excited too. They get wound up. They don't think as clearly as they should. Sometimes I don't as a driver. Sometimes I make mistakes. A lot of times I make mistakes. But I score this colt down. He wears a Murphy blind on the outside because he gets on the left line. But he runs in also. He wears a head pole on the left. I score him down, and he's running in really bad in the tight turns of the half-mile track. So I pull him up to the fence. Now I'm concerned. I'm like, take the Murphy blind off the outside. We'll see if we can get him around. Now, from a strictly, from a standpoint of a driver, as far as strategy goes, you don't want the other drivers knowing that your horse isn't good. You know, if all those drivers out there knew that See You in Tuscany wasn't getting around the first turn good, if I'm one of them, I go out of there with him. And I put him in a real bad spot. And I drag him into the deep water. And see if I can get him to make a break, or see if he just flattens out and he's no good. But I take him to task. And I was trying to hide it. So they say go, and I go out of there 100 with him. Now we have Well, you know, from the start of the race on a half-mile track to the turn, you don't have a lot of time to gather him up. Try to cool him down before he gets the turn. But I want to be effective. The 2 horse is the favorite, Brian Brown's horse. I'm the second favorite. It's like 6-5 and 2-1, you know. And then everybody else is kind of present on the program anyway. So I go out of there. Ronnie Wren is driving the 2, the favorite. He has me looped going into the first turn now. I move him over just a half a length, and I snug him up, and I kind of hold my breath for a second, and he paces right into the turn. He runs in a little bit. I kind of check him off the line. Now there's a long shot leaving. The long shot is number 6, and he's going out of there. I don't want him in front of me. I don't want to be first over with CU in Tuscany on a half-mile track. So I'm trying to stay close enough he can't get in front of me. I'm trying to stay close enough to the 2. We come out of the turn. I chirp him. I fill the pocket up. Now he's parked, or Ronnie Wren has to let him go. It's Aaron Merriman. Ronnie Wren cuts him loose. Well, the second he cuts him loose, I pop out of the 3-hole and I come 100 as fast as I can with CU in Tuscany. I blast to the front. He paces, so I'm 2.5 wide going into the turn, and I let him coast in down the stretch. I let him coast in down into the turn, coast in. He actually paces through the turn pretty good. Now coming to the half, I've got them by 3 or 4 lengths, and it had just poured rain too, and the horse has flip-flops on, those plastic shoes. So there is nothing good going for CU in Tuscany this night. He's struggling in the turn. He's got horrible footwear for the racetrack. You know, it's a bad scene. But we're doing the best we can. I'm on the front end. I'm on the front end now. And now the position the 2 almost put me in, he's in that position. Now he has to come first over into me. CU in Tuscany just come first over and win a 153 flat at Scioto. So he's concerned now, the guy coming. He comes out of the 3-hole. He goes to get in behind me, but I got the brakes on a little bit now, and it causes a little confusion. The 2 tries to get in the 2-hole, and the 6 fills it up, and then the 6 is now down on the inside of me, and he ain't going through there. So the 6 ends up through the pylons, and I didn't do anything wrong. I mean, I just tapped the brakes coming to the half. So we're over the half and 58 apiece. The first 2 divisions went in 53, 54 and a bit, but it was sunny then. Now it's poured rain throughout the night, so the track's muddy, but it's still fast-ish. It's a slow half, 58.3. So down the backstretch, somebody else comes. Now the 2 horses in behind me. The favorite's in behind me. I'm in the front with the second favorite, CU in Tuscany. Out, somebody's coming 2 wide. Brian Brown's other horse, I think his name was Tap Tap or Tap Out, or I don't know. Anyway, he's 3 wide. Both the horse in... Now, this is the trickiest part. Usually, he's still got a lot of horse left to CU in Tuscany. Like, I haven't asked him, I haven't called on him, I haven't pulled the earplugs. I got a pretty good hold of him, and I can feel him start to wander. So he's getting to the turn, and he's trying to figure out how he's going to go through this turn. The horse is, and they'll do this. You can see, I can feel him be a little, there's a little trepidation there. He just softens for a second, and I snug him up, and I let the other 2 horses by me by half a length. Now, at this point, a 2-year-old especially would start to get the jitters. They would start to want to come back on. They would start to want to do their work, and that's where he would make a mistake. But this horse is so smart that he actually let the horses past him on the outside, and he's sitting there, and I can feel him swell up the further we get through the turn. And as soon as we pace out of the turn, I kick the earplugs. Now he's 3rd along the rail. I kick the earplugs, and I call on him, and he is gone. We only come a last quarter in 29 seconds, but the last 8 was 27-second speed. The whole way down the stretch. The horse in behind me, who's loaded, the favorite, he's trying to catch me, but CU in Tuscany paces right away. Now the other horse was beat like a head or whatever and raced great, but the 2 that had me headed at that lane, we beat them by like 3 or 4 lengths. And that's how smart CU in Tuscany is. He wasn't on his game. He wasn't awesome. He was on a track he wasn't comfortable with. He was in footwear that were no way helping him that night in the mud, and he still found a way to win. And that's what good horses do. They find ways to win. And CU in Tuscany is a good horse. So he comes in at number 2. Now, for various reasons, I opted to put Swandre the Giant back on our list. And it's only fair. Swandre the Giant is a graduate of our barn. He left our barn in late May. We trained him down. And nobody knows that. Nobody would know that. but it's nice to keep tabs on him also. Here's a colt that just won in 155-2 or 155-3 out of the 9-hole in the Indiana Sire Stakes final, the first final, so they have lags and finals all year. The first stake race final was won by Swandre the Giant, and by all reports I've got from people in Indiana that are not the people that have him, the best looking colt in Indiana is Swandre the Giant right now, from what I've been told. Now it's third person, maybe fourth to you, but I didn't get to see any of his races live because it's hard to get the replays. It's hard for me to get the replays from Indiana. But I've been told that Swandre the Giant is the best looking colt in the Indiana trotting colt. So that's good. He comes in at number 3. He's undefeated. He's never faced defeat in his life in 3 starts. He just won the Indiana Sires final in 155. I guess could easily be number 1, but it's Indiana and it's not Pennsylvania yet. So although he won in 155 and he's similarly staked to White Tiger, if they choose to take him to any one of those Grand Circuit events, we'll be happy to switch the numbers of these horses if you'd like. But right now, White Tiger is number 1. See You in Tuscany is number 2. Swandre the Giant, really, really nice horse, and really happy for Paul, Brian, Terry, and Rich. Couldn't be happier for you guys, and couldn't be happier for Swandre the Giant. He's always been a nice colt, always been really talented, and now he's getting to show it off. Number 4, Sunshine's Finest. Obviously, it's pretty hard to put a horse that is 2/5 in a second ahead of horses that have been winning. But this horse came his last quarter in 25-4 2 starts ago. Then James really roughed him up, which he had to. It's racing. Really roughed him up his last start with gold, and was beat fair and square by Casey's horse in 52. So Sunshine's Finest, tremendous horse in his own right. Twinsburg. This horse has exploded into not just a nice horse, but a horse that likes her work. This was a miserable filly all winter. She did not want to do anything. Her ears were always pinned on her neck. Just cranky. We got her to the races and she just flipped a switch. So I had the 7-hole on a half-mile track. Twinsburg didn't really get out of the gate that well in Scioto. I got away 3rd, just the way the race was shaping up. I wanted to move her to the front. She was like 4-5 her first start, so they're not going to park her. I clear to the front. She kind of takes control of the race, but I got to pick at her the whole way, and she drives away and wins. Now I get the 7-hole on a half-mile track. She doesn't really show that much gate speed. She doesn't show that much gate speed, so I don't know what I'm going to do. You know, really, you got to just play the hand you're dealt at that point. So I score her down. I tap her on the tail, and she near pops right out of her harness. I said, Jesus, she's never done that before. I said, she's sharp. They say go. If it wasn't for the 6 horse coming out of there with me, I cross right over going into the first turn. But now, because the 6 is in the middle, what happens on a half-mile track if you leave from the outside and anybody leaves with you in the middle of the gate, it gives the inside horses the opportunity to catch up. And as soon as they get to the turn, they shoot through. They shoot right through, and now you're stuck in a bad spot. Hey, if I'm driving, I can't look at that money. So, I leave out of there, the 6 leaves with me. Now I'm in a real bad spot. I look left, and it's a graveyard. There is nothing in there. No holes, no nothing. I'm forced to push on. I'm 3 wide all the way around the first turn with Twinsburg. I clear to the front, 27-3. And I thought the horse in the 2-hole would remove. I tap the brakes. He doesn't come out. We're coming to the half, and I can hear somebody coming. I look over my shoulder, and I don't know what, number 3, I think. He's coming 100. Just as he's coming, just to refresh myself, I look left at the toe board. He's like 18-1. But I'm like 10-1 or 11-1 out of the far outside. This is a tough division. So I tap the brakes. Here he comes. He's coming wide open. I let him get right to my wheel. I want to maximize my breather as much as I can. Half flashes up, 58-3. So I stole away maybe 58-4. I think it was 30-4. 30-4 in the second quarter. So 15-2, I guess. But the biggest thing was, as soon as I call on her, tap her on the tail, she's wide open again. She's sharp. I can't believe this filly is doing this. Like, this is how smart she's turned into be. What kind of a smart horse she's turned into. We start down the backstretch. I bury the 3 horse. The 5 horse that now is going to come and eventually beat me. He's 3 wide. He gets right to my wheel. We're head to head, toe to toe, all the way to the wire. He just gets up and beats me by a nose, a head, neck, whatever. She raced so good. Last quarter in 28.2 a mile, 55.2. Just a tremendous mile from Twinsburg. Really showcasing talent I didn't know she had until I knew she had talent in Scioto. I knew she had talent in Mohawk. But that type of talent, that transitional speed, I'd never seen that before from her. So that's the growth in this filly and how good she's become. Twinsburg, and to say that a horse that's got 33,000 made and has a first and a second in her Sire Stakes divisions in Ohio is sitting 5th. That's what kind of horses we had this year and how lucky we've been. Now Twinsburg's also eligible to Kentucky Sires. So if everything works out perfectly, and it very well may for this filly, she could race 10 starts this year and race in both the Ohio and Kentucky Sire Stakes finals. Something that would be quite a feat. Quite a feat. So that is Twinsburg. Number 6, Oh So Pine, another horse, first and second in Ohio. Raced pretty good last night, Friday night in the mud. Enough to drive him into 6th. Not enough to keep him out of the top 5. But raced unbelievably well. Also, I really thought he could do a little bit more, but the track was muddy, and he's not as good on the front end of this horse. So, second beat ahead or neck is nothing to sneeze at, especially when you're going for 40,000. So, Oh So Pine, easily number 6. Number 7 will be a surprise to everybody. Pretty hard not to put him there. Yes. Where the hell did that come from? You could say, oh, the favorites run and then this and that. Listen. Yes, he did. Yes, was given an opportunity, but he took full advantage of it. That's what you're supposed to do as a racehorse. And yes, a couple of favorites made breaks. Yes, there was some long odds horses in front of him, but he had to come and get them. He had to come and beat them fair and square, and he did. 3 wide out of the last turn, won by 2 lengths, 159.2 in the mud. Big mile for Yes. Yes, he's ahead of Maintenance Man. Yes, he had a Mo better, but deserves to be. He just won an Ohio Sire Stakes. So congratulations to the owners of Yes. Very happy with the horse and what he's done. Very, very impressed with what I saw from the man of many missions called Yes last night. Number 8, Maintenance Man. Not really sliding down the list. Look at the list of horses we have. This horse paced the 2nd lifetime start in 153.3. Did all the heavy lifting in the mile and was 3rd. Race great. Just a really, 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 really nice horse. So Maintenance Man comes in at number 8 and can easily climb this list. I think he's got a bright future ahead of him. Not just the future, but this year. Maintenance Man will be doing good for the rest of the year, I believe. Guys, stop torturing your mom. Mo Better comes in at 9th. Mo Better's at 9th. Just so you know, our number 9 horse won his grassroots division of the Ontario Sire Stakes last week. Last quarter in 27 seconds flat, coming from 6th to win in 155.1. Goes without saying, Mo Better belongs on any of these lists, but man, oh man, he looked awesome last week. Back into going the grassroots on Monday, and hoping he does well again. Number 10, another shocker. Many of you may have been paying attention on Monday. I have got calls from people all over North America about what took place Monday at the Meadows. So I get to the track, we're racing Casanova's Jewel. Casanova's Jewel, 2nd lifetime start, first stake race, first time at the Meadows, first time in Canada. And we all know that Casanova's Jewel is no stranger to making breaks. So my number 1 job for the day, keep him close. And his mile in 2 minutes, because this is a Stallion Series, which is like the grassroots, his mile in 2 minutes sent him off at 9-5 out of the 7 hole. All I wanted to do was keep him in striking range, let him coast along, and hopefully get some money, get a clean line on him, and get him moving forward. So coming to the half, he's gapped a bit. I'm getting in a bad spot with him. You know, I think I am anyway. I'm at least 8, 9, 10 lengths off the lead. I don't seem to be making up any ground, so I got to put him in gear. I should have waited maybe 10 strides. We were just coming out of the turn into the backstretch, and that's where he transitions. He shifts his weight left to right, and where he's made his mistakes in the past. Sure enough, he rolled off stride. So I'm mad at myself. You know, I'm like, Jesus Christ, we didn't have to do that. He comes up trotting, you know, and smart. Usually this horse would run and run and run, just angry at himself. He just made a little mistake, and I was very gentle and quiet with him. He come right back trotting. So now he's like 16 lengths off the lead. I'm like, day's over, you know. So he starts to trot, and I'm letting him trot. We're catching up. And I'm like, geez, you know, if somebody makes a break, we might get money. So now I am putting him in gear, but I don't want to put him in the gear too much because he's coming out of the last turn now, where he could potentially do what he did coming out of the second turn. So I think we're going to get money, you know what I mean? So I move him out in the 5-wide path. He's still coming, still carrying his speed. I'm like, if he can keep going at this speed, I think I'm going to win. So I keep tapping him on the tail, I kick the earplugs out halfway down the lane. Wins. 2 minutes. It was the most incredible thing I've ever been a part of. I mean, I've seen horses, you know, videos on YouTube or whatever. This horse wasn't on the screen until the 3/4 pole. Now, granted, the front end collapsed. The horses were slower. They only went in 2 minutes. All these things played a role in this taking place. So, I mean, it was a huge mile, but it wasn't like put it on YouTube and you have 1 million views. I mean, it was an incredible mile, but there was a lot of variables that went into it happening. But nevertheless, here's a horse that made a break, had enough composure to catch back trotting. Ava had enough composure to catch back trotting fairly quickly, and the desire to win. You don't do that unless you love your work. You don't come back trotting, make up 15, 16 lengths, and win off a break from last at the 5/8 pole unless you like your work. So that goes a lot. I've been telling people for a long time that Casanova's Jewel wanted to be a good horse, and that just shows how badly he likes his work. To make a break and come back and win races, virtually unheard of, and an impressive showing from this colt on Monday afternoon. So he comes in at number 10.